Today I want to talk about the golf podcasts that I listen to and the golf magazines that I read. Hi, I'm Paul and this is The Golf Show. Hey everyone, how's it going? This week I thought I'd try something a bit different. We're indoors, I've not been able to get out on the course, and I want to talk about the golf podcasts that I listen to and the golf magazines that I read. Do you guys listen to any podcasts or read any golf magazines? I don't think golf magazines are as powerful as they used to be, but there are still plenty out there. There's so much variety in terms of podcasts, in terms of YouTube, obviously. There's a lot out there to go at, and I want to talk about some podcasts today that I enjoy. Some are really new, some aren't going anymore, but you can still find them. So I hope you enjoy this episode, guys. A new podcast that I'm really enjoying is called The Smiley Show, hosted by Smiley Kaufman. Smiley's a former PGA Tour winner and now he's an on-course commentator and broadcaster. It's a weekly show and it's a mix of roundups from the weekend's events on the PGA Tour, but also some interesting insight. When it was the US Open, he was doing daily blogs, which I found really interesting. You get some great guests on there, so whether it's his mates JT, Jordan Spieth, he's part of that whole spring break holiday crew that you see every year. It could be Steph Curry or someone like Marty Fish, the tennis player, who, is great sportsmen in their own right, but are really into their golf. So it's a really interesting show, lasts about 50 minutes. He's kind of chilled out, he's got a nice take on life, and I really like that show. So check out The Smiley Show. A podcast that's been going for a while, but you may not have heard of, is called The Brain Booster by Carl Morris. Carl is one of Europe's leading performance coaches. He gets some really interesting guests on his weekly show, and they talk about things like the mind-body connection, or acceptance if you hit a bad shot, or commitment over your next shot. So some pretty interesting stuff. It's not your typical golf podcast, but well worth a listen. The podcast I really enjoy is the Son of a Butch podcast by Claude Harmon III. Obviously, son of Butch Harmon, Claude Harmon is a world-renowned golf coach, coaches the likes of DJ, Brooks, Pat Perez. He's been around golf all his life, he's super connected and he's got some great insights. He says that golf is a simple game that tends to confuse smart people. I don't think he's wrong. And he gets some great guests on this show with some really good insights. So I really enjoy Son of a Butch by Claude Harmon III. The On the Mark podcast by Mark Immelman is really interesting. Obviously, Mark's the brother and coach of Trevor Immelman, who won the Masters. Mark's a broadcaster in his own right. It's a weekly show. You get some great guests on there, and it can be super technical stuff like, the importance of wrist alignment. Or on this week's show, for instance, he's interviewing Hunter Mahan and his lessons on golf. So there's some really interesting variety on there. He's a great broadcaster and it comes across really well, and he gets some really interesting guests. So I would check out On the Mark. Chasing Majors is a podcast that's not going anymore, but you can still find all the past episodes. And this was a short series where Steve Williams, who was Tiger Woods' caddy through the glory years, is interviewed on different majors and how Tiger would prepare, how he'd react to adversity during some of those tournaments. Some really unique insight from Steve on some of the stuff that went on behind the scenes with Tiger. So Chasing Majors is definitely one you want to be checking out. I enjoy the No Laying Up podcast. This is a team of guys that do podcasts and YouTube. Really interesting stuff. They've got great access. Weekly roundups on the tournaments that's just happened. Weekly look aheads to what's coming next. Some interesting features and some interesting guests. So it's very US centric, but really interesting. The guys keep it light, they keep it fresh. And that's a really interesting podcast called No Laying Up. There's still quite a wide range of golf magazines out there, and I don't think they're as prevalent as they used to be, probably through the likes of YouTube, social media and stuff like that. We can get your information a lot easier and a lot quicker. First one I want to talk about today is Today's Golfer. This said it's Britain's #1 golf magazine. You can buy this one off for £5.60 a month. You can subscribe for 12 months where it's a bit cheaper, or you can subscribe online anywhere in the world and it's cheaper still. You tend to get a supplement most months. This one's about escaping tricky situations. There's some interesting stuff in here. Let's have a look at what you get in there. The magazine's typically about 120, 130 pages, quite a lot of adverts. It's got some interesting content though, I do like it. You've got some interesting interviews with caddies and players. Tells you about stay and play locations, new courses that are coming out, lots of tips. They do a lot with shot scopes, they've got lots of data. The magazine covers anything topical that's kicking off at the time, so a big article here on Live Golf and the merger. Reviews of courses, which is nice. The magazine covers both men's and women's golf, which is really good. Lots of instruction in this magazine. A lot of equipment reviews as well. And they also have a top 10 towards the back of the magazine, which might be their top 10 drivers, low spin fairway woods, irons, putters and stuff, which is pretty good. In a similar price range, you've got Golf Monthly. This has also been going a very long time. Again, you're getting some supplements in there. Some of these can be sponsored as well, so you need to be aware of those. This feels a better quality magazine. Covers a lot of the similar aspects as today's Golfer. You know, there's a lot of adverts in these magazines, which is a bit of an issue for me. But what really annoys me with these magazines is they're giving you a review of some equipment as soon as it comes out. And when you read what they're saying, they're pretty much just copy and pasting the wording that's on the manufacturer's website. So whilst it's telling you about the club, quite often the reviews, well, it hasn't been a review, you know, they're just taking the wording from the manufacturer. So you've got to be very wary of that if you are looking at these for information on buying clubs. But let's have a look at some of the content you typically see in one of these. Again, about 120, 130 pages, full of adverts, as I said. You've got a golfing crossword there if that floats your boat. Nice little what's in the bag there on Tony Finau. Tells you all about the new merch coming out. As I say, the reviews tend to be exact wording from the manufacturer's websites. Article there about Rory. Is he going to win a major again? I think he will. You know, some interesting features, golfers who've, you know, had different journeys, different interesting stories. So there's quite a wide variety in here. I think this magazine is presented a little bit cleaner, a little bit clearer, as you can see there, than today's Golfer. Always a section on rules for you to test your knowledge as well. Now, I really enjoy Golf Digest magazine, but it's very difficult to get hold of in the UK and it can be expensive with the import tax, but you can subscribe to it online, so I do that. You know, it is a very US focused magazine. It covers features, instructions, tournaments. Again, lots of adverts. There's typically a what's in the bag there with a leading PGA Tour player. You know, they do things like the Golf Oscars, which I thought was quite interesting. They've got the undercover caddy that gives you some gossip every time. There's quite a bit on course design, which is quite interesting. And then there's, you know, there's always some sort of unique features like having a golf lesson with ChatGPT. So I think this is just a little bit above the other two in terms of content. Not as many pictures, not for everybody, but I really like Golf Digest. Currently, my favourite golf magazine is The Links Diary. Now, this is a really well made, well put together, beautiful paper, look great on a coffee table kind of magazine. This only comes out every few months. It's £14 excluding taxes and postage. It doesn't have any tips in it. It doesn't have any sort of reviews from the latest tour. It's sponsored by JL and Jones, so there's not a lot of adverts in there, which is really nice. It's crafted in Scotland and it's taking you to places you wouldn't ordinarily see. It could be golf in the Highlands on a course that's covered in sheep and where there's an honesty box. It's beautiful photographs. It's really easy to just thumb through. It's really well put together. Not cheap, but just really, really nice. So that's The Links Diary. This magazine just oozes quality. Even the envelope it comes through in the post is really nice. Beautiful photography, some nice narrative in there. You know, it's taking you to courses you wouldn't have probably heard of. There's some real, you know, uncovered gems in here, some hidden gems of golf courses that are just beautiful. Different people's stories about why they play golf. As I say, no adverts in here. There might be one page for Jones and one page for Jay Lindbergh, who are the main sponsors. Just really nice golf stories here. Takes you back in time a little bit. I really enjoy this. It's a really chilled out read and I love it every time one arrives through the letterbox. This magazine won't be for everybody, but I really like it. Okay, so that's it for this week. Something a bit different, but I like to mix it up and I'm already back out on the course filming for next week. If you enjoyed it, guys, give us a like, please. If you really enjoyed it, give us a subscribe. And we'll see you next time on The Golf Show. I hope you enjoyed the episode of The Golf Show. To watch another, click here. To subscribe, click here.